All right, we're recording. Good, excellent. Let's get right in there then. I'm back from the last. I wasn't on the last one because I had a baby, so that's excellent. Going well so far. This month, the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. It's an oldie but a goodie. We've identified. This is from 1993, so marketing has changed a lot. And I guess my initial thought is that it is more about business overall and the approach to business overall versus specifically marketing as it exists today. So that's an important note to say right off the bat. Everyone has read the book, submitted their book reports, and today we are going to discuss what we've learned, the things that we liked and disliked about the book, and how we're going to apply some of the laws, maybe all of them, to our business going forward. All right, so who wants to talk a little bit about maybe summarize for our audience kind of what the book is about and what you pulled from it, some of the things that you pulled from it. Who wants to go first?
Well, I can go.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree that the book is a little dated. Having said that, there are certain laws, and we will discuss like throughout the meeting. There are still some basic laws we can apply today's date as well. So that was I guess that is that would be my takeaway. That is the best part of the book. And there were a couple of of course, by this time, we are aware of all the 22 laws, which is to some extent, yes, we are aware of all the 22 laws, but then when I was reading it, there were some aha moments, especially in terms of examples. And I know the examples are old as well, but this is again my opinion. I took out a lot from this book, so yeah, that would be my takeaway.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Others?
I like the quote, marketing is a battle of perceptions, not products.
Interesting.
And just trying to change someone's mind is just not happening.
Right. I think on the book reports, kind of a common trend was talking about how it's better to be first to market. I think that was one of the main themes throughout the book. So does anyone want to speak to that at all?
I think it's true to an extent.
Okay.
I don't believe it to be 100% true. So I don't think it's a law. I think that I can't think of any examples off the top of my head right now where that isn't the case, but I don't believe that it's as simple as that. I think being first to market definitely gives you, I think MySpace was one of the first to market with social media. And Facebook was second. There you go. There's one off the top of my head, but I can see where they're coming from. And I think that it's also it can also be tied into the perception of who was actually first to market. In the UK, a vacuum cleaner is called a Hoover, right? But chances are Electrolux might have been there before Hoover. It's just kind of like the perception of that, I think. So it all kind of ties in. Like what they're talking about is I'm not disagreeing with it completely.
Yeah.
I just don't know whether I totally agree with that. The first one to the market is the winner.
And that may have been the case. I agree. I think that may have been the case when this book came out, because they use a lot of good examples like Xerox and Coca-Cola and companies that are ubiquitous with those industries, Kleenex, stuff like that, right? But I think nowadays, because there's so many businesses that are starting and there's so many different industries that are being created every single day, that you almost have to be first to market, but you also have to do it well first to market. Otherwise, your idea will just not really flourish at all.
Well, that's right, Riaz. And actually, we hear it every day in the work that we do, scalability. I think that, that's a new thing that's kind of come about, or maybe it's a word that we've identified now in the marketing world that's associated with everything that we try to do. But it's you can be first to market nowadays, but you've got to make sure that your model is scalable, that you've got a plan for the long term, as opposed to just putting a product out in the market and throwing some advertising behind it.
I agree. I see it on Amazon. It's like, because now Amazon, it's a market, it's a full like market itself. And you can have a product that you're looking for, having a lot of ads following you around. But when you get to the reviews, if those reviews are not good, you're not buying. So I think it also, this is another, the consumer behavior has changed as well, the way we consume things. And I agree with Riaz that now, if you ask me, like, for example, Roomba, yes, it was one of the first to come out, but now there's so many brands that even if you type in Roomba, you're going to get 1,000 options and you will not know who was second or third now. So I agree that also, it also ties in with the fact that our habits as consumers have changed as well. The way we consume things.
I like how you modernized the Hoover example. Roomba. She just disrupted your example.
Yeah, that's great. Love it. Let's talk about vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
If I can just add one more thing, I really like the second law. I believe it was a bit more, and I thought that was a bit more up to date. Basically, you know, if you can't be first, create a new category. And the way that I kind of took that was, you know, make it your own. And I feel like that's why so many companies in today's day and age, it's so important to have that branding, and it's so important to be engaged with your community and really stand out in a different way. Because at the end of the day, it's really hard to be first to market, especially in the times that we're living. There's so much out there, but you can be unique and you can do it differently. And that's why I really like that second law.
I agree.
Yeah, just piggybacking off that branding topic, like if you're not first to market, if you have a strong brand, you can definitely overtake. Like no one says, hey, let me Yahoo something. They say, let me Google something. And when you're grabbing for a tissue paper, right, you're grabbing a Kleenex, you're not grabbing any of the other ones. So like just it's kind of a testament to how strong branding can like kind of take over that the consumer's mentality. So yeah.
Good examples. Other takeaways?
I also found that like the law of leadership was contradicted, like in the book itself. Like they said, being important is the, like in the first chapter, they made it seem like it's the be all end all. And then they said, well, there's duality. So not the leader, but also the top two are important. Then they said, well, there's subcategories. So like the book said it is important, but then in the other chapters, it just said there's other, like there's ways around it. And it's even if there's a big company that you're competing with, just taking a stance against them or turning their, like having a USP like that is different than theirs. So essentially giving the same thing, like the Pepsi and Coke example. So I feel like it was a good place to start, but also like within the book itself, like the later chapter sort of made it feel like even if you're not the first, like there's still a lot of ways around it. And to Jackie's point, like no one really remembers the first one. Like we sometimes say, let me take a Xerox, and then you go to a machine that is not from Xerox and like make a copy. So you're still using the term, but it doesn't mean you're going to buy that brand's products only.
Absolutely. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there because I received, oh shit. You can bleep that out, eh? Look at that.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Living your best life there, Riaz.
I do agree with you that there's contradictions between duality and the first law there. And I'm just looking up the definition of immutable: unchanging over time or unable to be changed. But the funny thing is, it's mutable within the book itself. So again, I don't think the purpose of this is what we can get out of it and extract from it, but I think it's important to highlight some of the contradictions as well. Okay, good. What other takeaways do we get?
Well, to that point, Riaz, it's kind of funny because the book does contradict itself quite a bit. And one of the areas that they talked about was flexibility and adaptation, right? That products or companies have to be flexible, have to adapt to the changes in the marketplace. So to that point, like the whole immutable side of things really isn't showcased that well in the book, because that's what it talks about: being flexible, changing, adapting to your consumers' wants and needs over time. So yeah, I found the book to have a lot of contradictions, but all in all, a lot of what it preaches, or the rationales behind each law, are sound. I mean, they do make sense, but yeah, a lot of contradiction.
That's good. Okay, so we've talked about kind of summarizing the book overall. So let's have a conversation around the things that we liked, and kind of some of the lessons that we learned. So what did we like about some of the laws or all of the laws?
Go on, Vaspi. Go on.
No, I was just saying there wasn't like one law that I said this is the best law, but I like the overall theme, which was people like you're not fighting over facts. Like a lot of times companies are really like getting into detail, and like our product gives 80% more results than this one. You're not really like fighting for having the best product, like you're fighting for having like the best perceived product. So and how you can build that perception. So that was talked about in a couple laws, but one of them was just like presenting an alternative. Like it wasn't really as product focused, but like with the same product, you can have different positionings, and it gave a lot of options. Like you can position yourself as a better alternative against the competitor, create a subcategory. So I really like that aspect of it, where you're essentially given a lot of ideas to sell the same thing.
I like that too. And that's probably what stood out to me. That's probably why I chose the book, actually, because there's always a way to position the business, and the clients that we work with, they're all at different levels within their industry. They all have different kind of values or product lines, quality lines. So like, I really like the example of, they're talking about the car rental company. And saying like, we're like the number 2 company out there. And it's like, it's kind of cute and cheeky, but it worked. It grew their business like significantly because they owned what they were, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes there's a focus on like the same 3 things: customer service and quality, and right. And it's just like, what makes you really unique? And when we go to unique selling proposition, the thing that is usually there's less of a focus on is the unique part of it. But that's the part that's actually going to make you stand out in the marketplace amongst your competitors, right? Like for us, we talk about our team, and like you feel a part of the team, and we're connected, and right, we get results for you, demand results now, right? So there are certain ways if you focus on kind of what your lane is, who you are, the value you're bringing to the marketplace, and owning it, then you're not worrying about the next competitor. You're not worrying about what their positioning is, because you're not trying to copycat them or catch up with them. You're running your own business in your own category. You're creating your own category, essentially. So, and
it's our job to do that as well, right? It's our job to position our clients' brands and their services, their products, or whatever it might be, in a certain way. Yeah.
Good. Roy?
I kind of like the many cautionary tales that this book has. Lots of good examples of where marketing goes wrong and how to learn from it. I think that was good. It was good storytelling. The idea also of broken it up into 22 chapters makes things easy to find. So like, after reading this book, you'll be like, oh, okay. Like, and you encounter a real life situation where you're working on a marketing piece, and you can think back to like the leadership law. And then when you go back to this book, you'll know which chapter it is, and you can kind of like read up on some of the follies that may have happened, and like how you could do better. So it's kind of like a good instruction manual. As long as you ignore some of the hyperbole of the book of it being immutable and stuff. And I think that's the sort of like what the mindset you need to have. And then, just taking things with a grain of salt is a healthy thing to do. The other thing I really liked about the book, it was actually quite nostalgic to read about like this like 90s tech. I kind of grew up during that time. So like reading the stories of, IBM and Microsoft, those battles. Oh, and like New Coke. New Coke. And
classic
that
Coke.
was referenced a lot. Yeah.
I remember New Coke. It was like too sugary.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to like make it more like Pepsi, but they completely failed.
Yeah.
It was an interesting to kind of like remember those things. Oh, and like Lotus Notes, how like, oh, Lotus Notes is like amazing, but like where is it now?
Lotus
I
1, 2,
completely
3.
forgot about
Yeah.
Lotus until I started reading the book, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Lotus
Yeah,
1, 2, 3.
half the people here will be like, I don't know what that is.
Lotus 1, 2, 3 is basically like Excel. So
Yeah.
so there you go. So no, good. I agree, Roy, because yeah, when we read it, it was like it's a bit dated, but it also, I think it's interesting because we're in the digital marketing world, we sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, but sometimes we kind of think that, oh, marketing didn't really exist before digital, like, but it did, it obviously did, and it's changed a lot, but the laws in here, they're still applicable today, right? I know the whole immutable part, and we've kind of dismissed some of the contradictions, of course, but I like the examples, the fact that it doesn't reference Amazon or Tesla or like the things that we're familiar with today. It kind of talks about how like old school companies became like how they became so dominant today almost, or in their time. And I think there's something to be said about that, because it allows us to remove like the digital from the marketing part and to like learn about the marketing side of it, right? So good. Ileana, did you want to share any takeaways?
Yeah, for sure. I would say like one of the things I really liked about the book was that it was like, it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. It doesn't like drone on and on and on about like a certain topic. It's like, this is what it is. Here's a really good example for you to understand it. Or sometimes in my case, I had no idea what he was talking about because I wasn't alive at that point. But I understood the Coke and the Pepsi part. So that was good. I knew what he was talking about with that. And I like that the laws were, like how Roy said, it's like one of those things that you can go back and refer to, because I don't see them as like 22 laws you have to do like right now. It's like 22 laws that you should be aware of, and then you can like go in and like apply it when the time is right for them. My favorite one that I really liked was number 5, the law of focus. I liked that every single company like they had their own word and that they own that word. So there was like cavities and overnight and home delivery, youth and safety, and like all of that. So being able to like figure out like, what is our word, or what is the client's word? Like, what is their one kind of like power word? That was, if I had to pick a favorite law, I think it was that one, because that one really kind of stood out to me. As well as just like examples of saying like, oh, like I think Chloe mentioned as well, like you're going to get a Kleenex or an aspirin or whatever, but it's actually like a Tylenol or something, but everybody calls it that. So a lot of that stuff, definitely some good takeaways. And in terms of being a person who didn't like exist during that time, it kind of felt like a really interesting like history book to me. So being able to see like what brands still survive to this day, and how they adapted, I think was really cool to look at it from that perspective. So I could get what it is, because so many companies he named that I'm like, that doesn't exist anymore. And it's like, oh, these ones do though. So what did they do different? And I think that was really cool.
I definitely like the idea of having like a word associated with the brand, right?
Yeah.
So like for us in the earlier years, it was like the word demand, right? Demand, like we always try to push demand, right? Ileana, your word might be waffle.
Yes.
You're associated with the waffle now, my friend, right? So I'm just kidding, but there's certain words that our clients might be associated to, and if they're not, then there might be an opportunity for us to help them to create that word for them, in the spirit of getting them results, of course. Leslie, did you want to add any takeaways? Or I really liked I really liked your report on and the takeaways you had. So
Well, I just thought it was interesting, like the more products you have, then something's going to get sacrificed. So like be a specialist. I like that sort of don't be a jack of all trades thing, like really focusing on what you want and what you need and who your audience is. Like not trying to please everyone. Just you can't.
Yeah.
So,
It's true. You and everyone learns this in their life at some point, but when you're trying to be a people pleaser, the only person you're not pleasing is yourself.
Exactly.
Right. So and that's not good for the spirit, right? So finding that focus and hanging your hat on that focus, and you don't have to help everyone, but the people that you do help, you want to, or the businesses you want to help really well and do a good job of it, right? So good. Michael, you seem like you have something on your tongue there.
I was actually going to, Ileana was just talking about the Law of Focus chapter, and I highlighted something, a couple of things actually, because it really, one thing really stood out to me, and that over the years since I've been in marketing, trying to get a unique selling proposition out of a client can sometimes be a little bit challenging, especially when you're in a sales position too. You're trying to identify what that is, and the client might say customer service, right? Now, I've come up against that a few times. That's all right, customer service, but I've written a note here about it. Customer service and quality is great from inside the corporation, but it falls apart on the outside of the corporation. Everyone has great customer service and quality, therefore no one has it, because no one is willing to stand for the opposite. And I really love that, because I've remembered that. I read this actually quite a while ago, and that's something that has really stuck with me right there, is that if everybody has it, no one has it. It's a completely moot point,
I like that a lot. Yeah, I remember reading that part and thinking the same thing, and it's kind of a bit of an aha moment, because we do sometimes say, oh, we have good customer service. Everyone does, right? So yeah. Otherwise you wouldn't kind of be in business, really. So good. Thank you. Other takeaways, lessons learned?
To me, there was a point that was surprising, and it is because they're saying that the law of line extension, it doesn't work. But I kept thinking of examples like Kimberly Clark with all these lines of products. So it catch my eye. It was like, that's intriguing to find more examples on that one. But I found that one of my favorites was the law of unpredictability, just because definitely we could not have predicted that a pandemic was coming. But I really like the quote that says, having not a long-term plan, but a long-term direction. And I think that was pretty good. Maybe as long as we know what we want, where we want our clients to be, maybe the tactics may change, but we should always look to the same objective, which is how do we grow the business, as we're always saying. So I really enjoyed that. That was a great point that got me thinking of, really, tactics may change, but the vision and our main objective towards the client should not. And yeah.
So it's interesting because the law of extension, this was one that I thought might be a good kind of like debate point in this group, because sometimes there's and I agree with you that a lot of companies have successfully grown out their kind of their line of products based on like basically slapping a Paw Patrol logo on it, or or putting growing their brand that way. I think my personal belief is that you want to go deep rather than going wide, right? Like for me, I would rather, and again, I'm just one person, I'll have 10 different opinions or 11 different opinions here, right? I would rather be the best at one thing before I even think about expanding that line. And in the case of Paw Patrol or Lego or Ben and Jerry's, like they're good at what they do before they started doing more of it, right? The beaver tail was the best original beaver tail before they started putting chocolate and marshmallows and all that stuff on it, right? So like when I think of ours, like I would rather be the best Facebook ads, Google ads person in the world for our clients, and then kind of branch out that way vertically after that. And I think we do a good job of this. So I bring it up. I wouldn't bring it up if we were doing a bad job of it, right? So we're doing a great job of it because we go very deep on performance. We go very deep on our websites, our dev, like all the projects that we do. But I think it's important not to extend out too quickly without becoming the master of a domain, right? Because then you end up being a generalist who's not good in any areas, really, right?
It's a great point.
So I want to hear other thoughts on this, because this is an interesting debate point.
Yeah, I agree with you, Riaz, that we should not be extending out too quickly. But at the same time, I would say we should not miss out on opportunity if there is to, extend on from a particular field. Like, and I'll give an example here. I'm not sure how many of you can relate to it, but Rihanna, she's a great musician, singer, we all know it, right? But like that, Rihanna is a brand in herself, right? When she extended to makeup line, right? Fenty Beauty, when she extended her line, I had my doubts, but I kind of like, I kind of think that it's a very, very smart move, because people would just try her products based on like what she already is doing, right? And when we did that, and she made sure when she's extending her line, she took care of that opportunity to make sure to cover, all the skin type, all the skin color, solving a particular problem. And that's so superbly successful right now.
It sounds like she created a category in that, right? But my question to counter that would be, is it as good as Mac, for example, right? Like, is it, right? Probably not. I don't know, unless it was like powered by Mac or something, right? So, you know what I mean? So like, there's still kind of that dominant player in that category where it's like, yeah, sure, Rihanna's making makeup, but it's like, I'm not going to go to Rihanna for makeup necessarily by default. I don't know. Maybe we would. I want to hear. Yeah.
And also to your point, Riaz, but the main thing she does it very well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's what brings, like you were saying, the power and the
Yeah.
Yeah, because on the flip
so
side,
it makes sense with yeah.
Yeah, like on the other side of my own argument, I'm contradicting myself here, but it's like, because she does so well at singing and dancing or whatever, she's not going to put her name on something that is not exceptional either, presumably, right? So I think that's probably the argument, but I think objectively, Mac makeup is probably better than Rihanna makeup. I don't know, right? Without knowing for sure, right? So I don't know.
You're hurting Sonali.
Yeah, without knowing though, I would always go for Rihanna, but yeah, without knowing, of course, I understand.
It's been a while since I wore makeup, so I've been out of the game for a while. So other thoughts on the line extensions versus kind of focus areas?
Yeah, just on that example that we were talking about, like I just wanted to add one more thing. Like they said, when they're expanding, like you want to give it its own name, its own brand identity. So like I don't know anything about makeup, but I had heard this name. And I didn't know it was powered by Rihanna. That's the thing. So I think she did, like in the book, they mention it too. They said Philadelphia cheeses. I didn't know it was like part of this other company. I forget the name of the brand. But did you know it's a line extension of this other brand? Well, I didn't know that because they have their own logo, they have their own design.
Yeah.
So I think if she does that smartly, then not everyone is going to know it as the Rihanna makeup. Like it's still like a reputable brand of its own. Yeah. And there's still going to be people like me who are like, oh, it was like, oh, Rihanna made this, because I had no idea. So I think doing that is really important, because that sort of like takes away that, oh, it's a makeup from a musician, not like someone who's specialized. Because most of the time, like some people who are like new to the brand, they won't even realize that it's hers.
I'm gonna use a wild example here, right? But like, if you know the actor Donald Glover, right? And he's a musician also by the name of Childish Gambino, right? He's popular. Those two brands are popular independent of each other, and most people didn't even know it's the same person, right? So to me, that's the right way to do it, right? Where you've like built up two brands, and like, you know, the quality of the acting is good, and you know the quality of the the music and the singing is good. I mean, I think he didn't leverage the brands across. I'm not saying it was a good thing necessarily to do that, but I think that's kind of like, for me, it's like, oh yeah, the acting is good and the music is good, right? So it's like he was able to build up two brands, and I use that example because that's maybe a missed opportunity for line extension, right? Or it's like doing it sincerely because both brands can stand on their own 2 feet, and they don't have to like rely on the already existing equity built up in the brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I also think that was written in a time when vertical integration across retail and that wasn't as big as it is now.
Huge. You're right.
So you like, people who go shopping at Sport Check, do they realize that's part of Canadian Tire? Do they know that Mark's Work Warehouse is owned by Canadian Tire? Do they know that literally almost every restaurant, Canadian-owned restaurant, is owned by one brand?
Yeah.
Do you know that in England they have a product called Cornetto, which is an ice cream cone? It's made by Unilever, which was a company that made laundry detergent years ago.
What?
Oh my God, that's one of the popular ice cream brands in India as well.
Ah,
Cornetto.
Yeah.
Made by
Tornadoes.
Unilever.
No wonder it tastes so soapy.
Made with real suds. But I think that's the thing, right? So line extension in my mind works. No one even realizes, I think, that they're buying products that are part of or an extension of an original brand.
Yeah.
It makes me think like they're doing it on purpose because they know that like if they slap on Unilever on ice cream, people are not going to buy it.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
they still want the profit, but like they just make it their own brand. So I think if you do it in that way, then it makes sense because no one's going to realize that you've done it, but you're.
But then is it truly a line extension then? Because I think if they're creating a new brand, that's the opposite of the law.
Well, they can still, so for example, like say we make a lot of money from this business and we want to start a new one. We can use the resources and like everything from one business extend to another and not even like tell people that like the two companies are connected. I'm not saying we do
But it's
that,
not the
but-
business though. I'll read the line. I'll read the law. There's an irresistible pressure to extend the equity of the brand.
Oh,
So the Rihanna example is correct, right? Where it's like she's leveraging the brand to sell makeup.
Yeah.
You know, Kardashian, or you'll see these like massive releases on Instagram for these different lines. That's really what it is. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I think it's important to recognize that sometimes it's done sincerely and sometimes it's not done sincerely, right?
I think the key word is, Riaz, what you said. Like if you're really doing well in what you are doing right now, then the chances of being successful once you extend your line is way, way more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Okay. Other takeaways and lessons. I know we jumped into the law of extension there. Paul, did you have any thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, well, just with the law of extension, I mean, some of it is about experimentation, right? And one of the points in the book was not really big.
I think we got a Paul.
He's been having internet issues lately, as Paul.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Well, we will come back to Frozen Paul once he is unfrozen. Khalil, did you want to add some thoughts in terms of takeaways?
Sure. Yeah. I think my favorite law was the law of candor. So it's admit a negative and that kind of switches to positive. And the first thing that I thought about was Buckley's. I just always love that Buckley's commercial. It tastes awful, but it works. And it's such like a really great implementation of it, right? Because it's still kind of highlighting the positive at the end. It just works. It doesn't taste very good. And everybody knows that. No one wants to take cough syrup. So I really like that one. There was another one, the law of focus. So going back to what Ileana was mentioning in the singular word, and I kind of did like a little experiment on myself. So we had cavities, overnight driving, and safety as the words that were on that initial page. And I kind of thought about what were the brands that stuck out to me as what comes to mind first. So I said Colgate, Buckley's, Audi, and Band-Aid. And so for overnight, I had Buckley's again. And I asked a couple other people and they said FedEx, and that made a lot more sense to me, but like just how powerful that was for me. So yeah, those were kind of some insights that I got from the book that I hadn't really thought about in a while. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
I like it. Other takeaways from the team? Jackie, do you have any takeaways you want to share?
What else? I think it got me. Yeah, I got stuck kind of on the first law on unpredictability. I have a hard time with that word. Sorry. And the other one was focus as well is very good, but I think it all comes down to, yes, then we might have some principles, but as always, I think at the end of the day, this serves us as a way to reflect on how we could be doing things and principles. But at the end, it all comes down to our own research, our own vision for a certain client of brand, how we nurture those users, and with the changes in terms of consumption and how we consume not only content, but products, I think we might have some slight changes here. So it's not, maybe these are not laws, but like principles we can look back to and have some guidance and new ideas as well. Why not? Mm-hmm.
I think I think the law of success is also a very interesting one, where it kind of says ego is the enemy of successful marketing, right? When we have, sometimes when we are, I guess, not willing to change, like when a brand becomes too successful, they kind of stop thinking about the market. What do the consumer wants, or what is the demand? What is the present demand right now? And that can be really dangerous for the brands. And I can think of a lot of examples here, but I'm not sure, like, if you guys know this. There was a brand called Nokia for cell phone, and if I think Basby would know it. So it was a very, very popular brand in India. Nokia was such a household brand, but when smartphone came in, Nokia was like not willing to change at all. And of course, we know Samsung, and Samsung took over the market because Samsung came up with the smartphone, and people started, like, Nokia went downhill like crazily. It was right in front of our eyes. It's a good example I can think of. They were like really successful, and I cannot stress enough that it was painful, but like, yeah, that happened because they didn't change with the market demands.
It's interesting you say that, because that actually happened here as well, and with Nokia and also with BlackBerry. So BlackBerry is a Canadian company,
yeah,
right? And iPhones and Android devices, Samsung, kind of really just ate their lunch very, very rapidly. So
Nokia was amazing in terms of quality, but they just suddenly, which brings me to this this part where they're talking about, oh, if you're doing a lot of spending a lot of time talking about yourself, trying to get your word out there, is because you're in trouble, which is not true. As we know, and we're explaining to clients, hey, client, they need to see you at least 5 to 7 times before they remember you. So I believe maybe that's a statement that is not really true. Like this is what happened with Nokia. They suddenly stopped like promoting themselves. They started letting Samsung come in, and the same thing happened in Costa Rica actually with Nokia, because the quality was amazing and they still fell. Like it's Nokia. They don't sell Nokia anymore. So I think talking about you is important to keep yourself in the mind of users, right?
Nokia's word was their ringtone. They had a default ringtone.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah,
iconic. Oh yeah.
Oh.
There you go. Look at us. Look at us oldies laughing about it.
Oh, we're so old.
I know that ringtone too.
Yeah. Okay.
So do I. My
Stop
first
it.
phone was a
Stop.
Nokia.
Yes.
Funny.
So good. There's videos like people running over Nokias because they were so good. The material was very good.
It was so good that they wanted to run over them with their cars.
Well, it wouldn't break. There's memes about it. Like you could like use it as a brick, throw it at people, and the phone wouldn't
A weapon.
break.
I had that snake game too. That was like the first time I ever played a
So
video game
good.
on a phone.
Yes, but yes, you're right.
Hey, I'm not that young, guys.
So good.
So Matthias, take it from there. What else did you learn from the book? What else did you take away from the book?
You know what? I like this book.
Oh yeah, okay.
I did. Yeah, I thought it was a good little checklist of things to keep in mind. Some things, yeah, I agree, are outdated. But a lot of it, you can just kind of see it as like the foundation and the root of things, and just kind of take it and kind of roll with it. But I liked a lot of it, really. It touched on a lot of things that I already kind of knew from school and just practice in general, but it was a good refreshment. I even mentioned in my book report that it could be something that I look at every 6 months or something, just to kind of refresh kind of those laws, I guess.
You can
yeah.
you can tell us in 6 months from now if they're immutable or not.
You got it.
Good. Roy, did you have any takeaways?
Yeah, I think that the two laws that I liked the most were the laws of the law of the mind and law of perception. They're very similar, and that like it really hits home like that marketing is like a psychological game, and that even though you have like an amazing product, if you can't tell the story like a proper like compelling story about it, then nobody's going to buy it. And that marketing, like perception is the reality, and then the product is essentially an illusion, which is very interesting to think about. And it kind of just reminds you that you need to build that perception. You need to create that story about your product in order to be successful.
That's good. Very good. Okay, so should we move on to the part about how we're going to apply what we learned into our day-to-day, into our organization? Who wants to go first?
I can go.
Sure.
So the first, like the most impactful was like alternative positioning. So if a current positioning of a product or a service isn't working, like we can come in and say, maybe instead of trying to compete with your competitor, maybe you should try to like position yourself as a subcategory or as a better alternative instead of trying to objectively prove that you're a better product than your competitor. Because we could do that, where there were a lot of different chapters that spoke to, if you're not the leader, this is like what you can do as a secondary thing. So that was a big one. The next one was the generalist and the specialist one. Some of the examples, like, some of it is not really in our hand, like who they're developing their products for, who they're trying to appeal to, but we can certainly educate the clients and say, you might be losing a lot of business by trying to be a generalist, and we want to be a specialist. And like just putting that out there, and we don't need to necessarily like dictate it, but just educating the clients that they could be doing a lot better by specializing if they're already not. And checking if the message speaks to the most important audience. So once we've decided that this is the positioning and this is our audience, just making sure that like what we're saying actually speaks to their mind and not about the product, like keeping the law of perception in mind when speaking to the audience.
Good. It's good. And in terms of the last one, in terms of messaging, like when we're doing campaign optimization, you want to find the right audience first, and then you want to dial in the messaging second, right? Because if you do it the other way around, you might change the message that would have worked with an audience, with the target audience, right? So you want to get that target audience first and then play around with the messaging thereafter. So yeah, just a thought on the last point that you made there. Other lessons learned that we're going to apply going forward? Sonali?
I would say the law of failure. How it mentions that failure is to be expected and accepted. I think that's really powerful because when we are doing anything, failure is inevitable. That will happen. But how to learn from your failure and really accepting it and moving it, because if we try to just cover up or not acknowledge, is just a formula for disaster, right? So the best way is accept it, and then like try to find ways to move past that. And that's a great learning, not only in, like, I would say in terms of and it's just common with all the book I read. And when I read these books, I try to think like, what are the laws out of this 22 laws I could apply to my position, right? And going back to the interrupt runner thing, right? How you can apply in your role in the company. So I think this is very, very important. And then I like the chapter number 21, the law of acceleration. I know some of you might not agree, but there's a line there. One way to maintain a long-term demand for your products is to never totally satisfy the demand. That is again also very, very powerful, because that way we kind of make sure that we are not only successful, but we are sustainable as well. Like we are existing for the longer period of time. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Sonali.
Yeah.
Other lessons that we're going to apply going forward? Leslie, did you want to?
For me, it's this being a specialist.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of obvious, but yeah. I like that one. I think it applies well.
No, absolutely. And it's good because you can level up in that one area, right? I think that's when you're trying be a generalist, you're like always struggling to keep up, especially in our world, right? In our world, where digital marketing means 100 different things to 100 different people, right? We got
like all the different things that like Khalil and Matthias and Ileana and I do.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like if I had to do all of those, no.
But I'll encourage you, not just you, but everyone, to look and figure out what your T-shape is. There's the idea of the T-shaped marketer, right? Where it's like there's certain things that transcend across all marketers, but then you have kind of your base of specialists, functional areas. So for me, it might be like performance marketing, marketing sales, analytics, right? But then there's like other things across the board that you have to be good at, creative, and the things that you have to know across the board. So maybe we'll do some more lessons and stuff in terms of like figuring out your T shape.
Michelle Fung knows all about that as well.
Okay. Yeah. We will have to ask Michelle Fung about that.
Yeah, ask Michelle.
Okay, good. Thank you. Other lessons, Paul? I know you got cut off there by the interwebs.
Yeah, well, hopefully it doesn't do it again, but it's been doing it for me all day. So for me, one of the biggest takeaways really is in the law of perception, in that controlling the narrative is so important, right? That the perception that you put in the mind of your prospects or your potential customers is really up to you to control, to mold and shape in the way that you want them to see your products and services and how you're going to be part of their journey. So for me, that was one of the most important takeaways, is that it's up to me and it's up to us to control that narrative in the minds of our customers.
Excellent. Any other final lessons? Yeah.
So I could say that objectivity is what's needed when it talks about how ego tries to win sometimes when we're analyzing a situation. And it got me thinking that that's why we should always, and we should continue basing our decisions on data for our clients. Mm-hmm. So objectivity is needed. Second, you can stand for something if you chase after everything, according, and just like Leslie. And I think this ties in with the importance of KPIs. If we're chasing everything, then we don't really know what's our focus. And these two things combined, it's where really it's going to get us to that long-term direction with clients. So that long-term direction really stay with me. So and that's what we want at the end of the day. We want the clients to grow with us for many months, right? So many years. So yeah, I think these two things are crucial. Mm-hmm.
Good. Thank you very much, Jackie. So I guess we'll stop there. Lots of good conversation, debate, good highlights of some of the laws. And it's nice that there was a diversity of laws that we all liked and kind of pulled from. So that's very good. Again, the book, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. If you haven't read it, check it out. Next month, or I'll say the next 2 months, because we're going to read we're going to go a bit deeper on this book, is called .com Secrets by Russell Brunson. So this book came out many years ago. not as many years as this book that we just read, but somewhere between now and then. It's a newer book. It's all about digital marketing. It's all about funnel marketing. It's created by the founder of a company called ClickFunnels that you might be aware of. So this is going to be more hard skills. Last few months have been a bit more soft and flowy. This is going to be some hard skills. So there's an updated version of the book that just came out, like I think last year or two ago. So we're going to be reading that book. So definitely check it out. If you typically read the audiobook, just note that there are some kind of like a lot more pictures involved in this book. So if there, I don't know, you can look online, and when something comes up, you can look it up, or just read the physical version, which I'm planning to do as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating today. Excited on the conversation was great. And Jackie or Khalil, you can stop the recording now. Thank you. Have a good day.